Welcome back, everybody, to another week and another episode. This is actually going to be a bonus episode. You already know it's a dose. Today, we're going to bring on the platform someone who I just recently met, someone very strong, someone very inspiring, someone with a purpose who has agreed to come on Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast with your host, Miss D, to share this with all of you and to just give a little insight on the conversations that we have committed to continue having and continue bringing to light and continue sharing with you in hopes that this also brings up some form of discussion for you, for your friends, for your family members. And we hope that, as you tune into this episode, that this can resonate with some of you. And that if there is anyone out there who does need any help, please feel free to reach out. And here it is. Enjoy the episode. Everything looks good. Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for coming to my show of Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. As we had a conversation, what was it, like last week? I think it was. We had a little
Yes.
bit of a conversation. We were already introduced to each other. I am the host of the show, Miss D, but of course, my name is Daisy. And I am here, guys, with a very wonderful guest. It is Paola. I'm going to allow Paola, she did already give me insight of what her force is, her purpose is, but I want to give her the platform to be able to share with my audience as we do continue the conversations that need to be had and become aware and knowledgeable of what we have within our communities and our surroundings. So I'm going to let Paula take charge a little bit right now. Tell us a little bit of what your purpose is. I'm going to let the listeners know we kind of like just came across virtually one another. Your page just was forwarded to me.
Right.
And it was just like amazing that that even happened. But please let my listeners know, what is your purpose and what is the power behind you?
Wow, the power behind me. Um, Hello, everyone. My name is Paola. I am a New Yorker. I am a mother, and I belong to a non-organized group
Mm.
called Mamis Unite. We started up as a group of mothers who were activists very much the anti-war era through Occupy Wall Street, help each other out in any way we can. One of our initiatives right now is we had an incident, well, not really an incident. Some of our mommies were arrested and brutalized by the police in the protests that happened in the Bronx on Mott Haven. When we found out what was happening through a live feed, some of us had gone out earlier in the day, or in our cities, in our different boroughs, we organized a fund, a bail fund, to get our mommies out and to get any support to any families that we can. That is our initiative right now, our goal. We were able to secure everyone, sort of help our own. Now we have this fund that was established, that was donated, and we really want to get it out to people who are in dire need, the people in the movement that are in dire need. That means that our families that have been arrested, our families that are going through the struggle right now in the movement, it's not really talked about what an arrest does to a person, what a $500 bail fine does to a person, to the individual. And not everyone can afford that. Not everyone can afford an arrest on their record. Not everyone had planned, some were planned arrests as a resistance. This is not always the case in situations like this when the police target crowds unknowingly, well, knowingly on their side, but people who didn't plan to be arrested.
Right.
We want to just help them out and then get this help out to them. We also have volunteer medics that are currently in different cities. Not everyone can go to a doctor. Not everyone can treat a wound, a rubber bullet wound in the open like that for various reasons. We also have volunteer legal aid as well. And we want to just get that out to different people. Yes, there's a lot of organizations that are doing that. We are not an organization. We
Right.
are a group of mothers, and that's really what it comes down to. We know that there are other families out there who just need help, even the smallest amount of help, and we're trying to get that to them.
Yes. Yes. I love how you just said, we're not an organization, but we're just a group of mothers. But how crazy is it that a group of mothers can be this strong, right? Together,
Yeah. Yeah.
united, and you could bring so much resources to the community. My audience knows I am from the Bronx. And so, this is part of our communities. This is part of what's really happening in our cities right now. And it's something that I'm pretty sure, you don't always know all the resources that are there just within your own community. So it's beautiful that you have a full force that has established this just by coming together, joining forces without it necessarily having to be this full blown organization.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's really the strength of the people, it really is a testament to the definition of community,
Right.
to the definition of solidarity,
Right.
and the definition of unification.
Right.
And that's kind of why I mean, at first we're a tight knit group, and we all knew each other, in Manhattan, and I'm sorry, throughout New York City, me specifically Manhattan. And then it grew and it expanded, and now we have mommies from all over
Mm-hmm.
that want to help out, because there's nothing, larger than that in our world,
Right.
which is the understanding that every child deserves everyone from the village to participate.
What really resonated with me, we have a mutual person in between who actually already came on my show.
Yeah.
For my listeners, you guys know I featured Amir in the episode of A Dose, and Amir handle on Instagram, which was shared during the episode, is big sis underscore energy. And so sis is who forwarded to me Paola's post.
Yeah.
And what really resonated with me, you just never know like how connections could happen. But what really resonated with me was it was a post of Paola holding up a sign. What was noted on there was, and I get still a little bit stumped on this because it's something so like it hits home. The fact that we are moms, and as moms, we do have a certain commitment to our kids, to our community kids, and just in the human fact, we pointed out, not just in that episode, but also we recently did a live show on YouTube called Pots for Bonds, where we highlighted that George Floyd in his last minutes was asking for his mom, calling for his mom. And
Right.
so that just resonated so much for me to see your signage and to see your stand in there. And I've come across people who just don't get it, including some moms who just don't understand the bigger picture. That was a march you went to, correct? Was it a march you participated in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've participated in several the past couple of weeks. Being a mom, that struggle is real of not
Yeah.
always being able to, and trying to participate as much as possible off the streets as much as on the streets,
Mm-hmm.
which is a luxury and a privilege for me to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not every family can. So I wanted to. So my emphasis with being in that sign, the sign said "Mamis Unite," which is
Yeah.
us
Mm-hmm.
basically, and that's so much more than our small group. It's literally every mother everywhere, as well as just me being present as a Latina, me being present as a non-Black ally in the movement helped me personally feel like I was doing something for my close friends and family who are Black, who are
Right.
home with their
Right.
babies.
Right.
I have specifically that day, I had spoken to my very, very dear friends who are both single moms with their children, who are both Black women, strong, powerful Black women. And I felt how stressful this is all becoming for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be present so they could stay home. And that's sort of like the feeling that started it off.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be there so they could stay home, so they could stay safe, so they can, we're all trying to stay safe from COVID-19,
Right.
stay safe from everything that's happening, keep our children safe, keep our family members, our elders safe. And that was the message behind that sign,
Right.
you know, like if those mothers who can be present for the ones who cannot.
Right. Right. And that was definitely the message I took from you, from your post, from the signage. And then when we spoke, we dived into that and you did share that with me, which is something that I could not agree with you more. I think it is in our duty also to protect our loved ones who cannot be there, or for whom this is just too much to be there, and they are entitled to feel that way. Absolutely. I do feel it is a part of our commitment to be that support now, and to show up and show out however which way we can, as long as it's within our abilities. There's just something so powerful behind women coming together, and then it's stronger
Yeah.
when you are just, the purpose behind it is, as moms, we have children who we are raising, and we're raising in this world, and we want to see this world get better.
Yes.
And cut the mess that we have currently, that has been here all these years, hundreds of years. And it's my hope, and it is the gist that I got from our conversation, that it's, your group's hope and yours as well, that we have to break cycles, and we have to have our children in an environment that is more conducive and safer to what humanity is.
Right. That's
um
really it. And we
yeah.
also have to be there, be that strength for each other to create that.
Right.
Because
Right.
no one lives, what does that say? No one lives in a vacuum, you know?
Yeah.
We all coexist within
Yes.
each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Do you, from the marches you've participated in, I'm just intrigued to know this. I know we noted I did see some of the footages from what happened in the South Bronx,
Yes.
but from the marches you participated in, did you see any of that type of behavior, or has it been generally peaceful marches?
So peaceful is such a difficult term to use these days, right?
Very.
Um, yeah, because they're all peaceful marches, and however you want to describe that,
Mm-hmm.
it's with the intent of having peace.
Right.
Right, the aggravation that happened, the violence that happened on behalf of the police in the Bronx, was not something that I myself experienced living downtown,
Got it.
you know.
Okay.
So and this is where it's very key to note how New York City is divided and how different areas are
Right.
treated.
Right.
um it's very key to understand that
Mm-hmm.
in Lower Manhattan, which is mostly the marches I've participated in, there's when you do break curfew, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you start feeling the aggravation. You
Got it.
start feeling the intensity when they start closing in, when they start blockading. But you also know that there is an incredibly large amount of predominantly white allies, white protesters, white witnesses, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
as well as media, photographers, cameras out, videos out at all times. It depends where. I mean, I've had those experiences in the past. This specific, the George Floyd, these specific past couple of weeks, that's been my experience. Is when curfew was existing, and then you were downtown, and suddenly the intensity began. They're definitely agitators within the NYPD.
Got
They
it.
will, you know, it's hard to put into words. Harassment
I
with body
understand.
language.
Mm-hmm.
There's definite I remember just walking home, and then just knowing you're followed,
Yeah.
just leaving a protest knowing you're being followed by plainclothes officers,
Mm.
knowing that. I remember, that it's one of the more recent ones. I was trying not to break curfew,
Mm-hmm.
um because, again, single mom. And then I'm walking, trying to find a train station, finally get to one. I was hit on by a police officer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is the usual in the city. And
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize that that's also a form of aggression that
Mm-hmm.
we experience. And then I'm just sort of they're all standing around,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm there. I'm by myself at this point. I had left everything. I had left my group. I had left the protest. I'm literally trying to get home, and it's this uneasing, unsettling feeling that at any moment anything can happen,
Happen. Yeah.
anything can break down, because you're now more vulnerable than you were when you're in the protest or with a larger group. And
Right.
that's sort of what is experienced when they start they have this habit of this strategy, I should say, rather, of when there is a protest, they start breaking you off.
Mm.
They start breaking you into smaller groups. They start destabilizing the protest, cornering you, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's strategies that they use to antagonize the movement, really.
Right.
And it creates a scene that's kind of it's volatile. So what happened in the Bronx, when I had gone out earlier, and now at that point I was now home, and we have something where we say we keep eyes, which means we know that we have fellow mommies, that we have friends,
Mm-hmm.
that we have family members who are out on the streets. So we
Mm-hmm.
keep eyes, which means you watch the media, you watch different live feeds, because we knew that something was going to happen. And whether it's an instinct, when you've been in different
Yeah.
protests and
Yeah.
marches, you know that they are planning something. It's the Bronx. It's at 6. I remember reading somewhere that or getting some form of information that at 6 p.m. the train stations were now closed.
I
So
think I saw
now,
that too.
yeah,
Yes.
so that means that not only were they limiting the amount of people who had access to their freedom of speech in the
Mm-hmm.
protest,
Mm-hmm.
but now they are eliminating the escape route for those who didn't want to break curfew.
Right.
For those who maybe, it's a way to block off
Mm-hmm.
a sector. Then I saw the barricades happening,
Yeah.
and you had the videos that we received were as early as like 7:30. By
Mm-hmm.
7:45, the police ran into the crowds. Like, they jumped over cars and started beating
I
people
saw
with
those
batons by
videos.
7:45.
Yeah.
The people who had been blocked off for at least a good 30 minutes, not able to move,
Mm-hmm.
not able to walk away, not able to get to safety in any form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was really, it's what happened,
Yeah.
and I've experienced things like that before, in like years ago.
Right.
But for some reason, I think now as a mother, and knowing that my fellow mothers were there, it was this instinct moment of nervousness, of anxiety, of pressure. That that chest pain that you get
Right.
when something's wrong.
Yep.
you know,
We know
of
that one.
right, that your
And
people are out there.
it's
You
an
know,
uneasy feeling.
yeah, and not just like your people as in the people, New York City, New Yorkers, the movement, but
Mm-hmm.
people you actually like break bread with, or in your
Mm-hmm.
home, your family, your close friends, play dates, you name it, they're out there, and knowing that this is about to happen. So I think for us, we immediately started organizing, we immediately started strategizing, like, okay, how do we get as much help possible in
Right.
as short a time? And I remember, that specific night, there was one of the DJs on Instagram, D Nice, D
Mm-hmm.
Live,
Yes.
right? So he has
Yes.
like these huge parties, and like I went on it, and I wrote "All Eyes on the Bronx, All Eyes on the Bronx,"
Mm-hmm.
because they set the scanners off, so there's no like feed or communication happening. So we were like blacked out for like a good
Mm-hmm.
half an hour
Right.
at least, from trying to communicate with people. So that's really where it started, and what mobilized, immediate mobilization between mothers, knowing that our mommies were out there.
I think it's actually interesting that one of your callings was All Eyes on the Bronx on DJ D Nice
Yeah,
live. That was
right.
actually, when you think about it, you don't realize how important it is. He is a native New Yorker.
Yeah,
And why wouldn't we, in that form of a strategy, go and do that? Imagine how many people are watching his live at that moment. The train stations were shut down. I remember seeing that. And
yeah,
I was like, what is going on? We get the alerts and then the scanners were off. But unless you know, because you're so affiliated and so committed to your community, you wouldn't necessarily have gotten all those alerts. And if it wasn't for social media, for us to have been able to see, some of us who, are a little bit further away from that area where this particularly happened, we would not have known had those videos not been put up. The videos are real.
right.
They are on social media.
They're
And
live. They
yeah,
were live.
they were live. Yeah. And it's pretty heartbreaking to see how that happened.
Yeah,
It just felt like such a blindsided ambush. It was so heartbreaking to see it because, going back to the question, the intent is of the people to go in peacefully, but then it's like, what do you hit once you get there? It's completely different. And I think that's definitely what happened in the South Bronx. And I wanted to have you come on the platform to shine more light on that, shine more light on what, again, your purpose is and your group's purpose is, and definitely behind the entire concept of, you know, the full force of us being mothers and, how we can contribute as well and continue to have a stronger force. I commend you and your group for the commitment you guys have to one another
Thank
and to
you.
your communities, because it's not easy to do that. It's not, whether you are a single mom or not, there's just so much commitment that comes to our role in itself, but then there's everything else, and our communities are our homes. Those are our safe havens. That is where we are raising
Right.
our kids. So it's important to be able to contribute and to give back one way or another. And when it comes to the fund, and you said that, you are still looking to see if there is any families, I would assume local, or I don't know how far it can go.
We're trying to go further out
Okay.
just because, I mean, yes, local,
Right.
but we're not having any kind of geographic limitations as
Got
long as
it.
it's families that are involved, you
Okay.
know, in
Perfect.
the movement in any way. And that could just be someone who, has been vocal in their community. And,
Right.
it's yes, there's so we did like make donations to organizations and mobilizations happening right now, but
Mm-hmm.
then we want to just give priority
Right.
to like one-on-one individual assistance,
Right.
because it's we've all been there, that $500 fine is going to like make a huge difference between whether or not we can afford food on the table.
Absolutely.
We can, like I said, there's a co-payment with going to the ER from
Yeah.
tear gas.
Right.
That's a co-payment. That's a huge co-payment
It is.
that someone may not be ready to undertake. That's some days off work. That is, maybe even loss of employment because of an arrest. These are all like little factors. Maybe it's just like having been an activist, like I said, before motherhood in a past life, and just having that knowledge of what those types of things, how that can impact a family,
Correct. Correct.
you know or just feeling overall overwhelmed right now. These are things that people are experiencing, and if we can just help a little, that that goes a long way,
Away.
you know
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's why I've been trying to get the message out. We actually had we were so grateful, and we had so many people contribute that we closed off for donations. We're not
Mm-hmm.
accepting any more donations. This is something that we are trying to now see how we figure this out in the future, because again, this wasn't a planned event.
Right.
It was literally just, our mommies are in danger. Let's get together and try to do something right now.
It was reactive mode.
It was
Right.
reactive. It was
Yes.
completely reactive. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I remember staying up the whole night. Like, we have mommies out in other states,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to like use technology to our advantage, and just like
Mm-hmm.
calling each other,
Mm-hmm.
time difference, waking up sleeping babies to
Right.
try to get this set up. You
Right.
know,
Right.
um, it was very reactive, and it was very fortunate. And now we want to take that and try to reach out to anybody
Mm-hmm.
who needs help, whether that's monetary, or needs legal advice,
Resources.
or
Mm-hmm.
has we have may have an EMT in your area,
Mm-hmm.
that would like to volunteer and just check out on a wound, let's say. That's available. We have that. So we wanted to use social media, like Big Sis helped me, use spreading out that word and that message
Yeah.
out, um, out to the world, to just to contact me. We have an email. It's Mamis Unite,
Mm-hmm.
MAMISUNITE
Mm-hmm.
.nyc
Mm-hmm.
@gmail.com.
Yes.
You can also use my DM into Instagram. It's
I'll
at
I- I'll
Oh,
actually
okay, you'll
tag
do
it.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
tag that because I
All
know,
right.
like, no, it's cool. I thank you for even,
Yeah.
spelling out the email, but I can actually do both for you. So
Okay.
that's
Thank
exactly
you.
what yeah, it's okay. I definitely want to include that. And of course, because, I only know Paola, but I don't know the rest of them. But again, when it comes to all my listeners know how serious I take my role as a mother. But then it's also the part of raising a boy in this society, in our communities.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so everything that comes along with that, what would teach them. And one of those things is definitely, how can I help my communities? How can I help, my fellow mothers? I don't need to know them all personally to know and understand what their purpose is. And so, you know, for whatever it is, the whole world doesn't listen to my platform yet. Maybe someday they will. um, but I do know I have a reach, and I wanted to bring you on this platform for that, because I
Right.
think what you guys have done in such a quick, reactive, and positive way is so amazing. And we probably don't know, maybe out of fear, there are families out there who don't know how to get help because they
Right.
did go out with an intent to protest, and they received something different.
Yes.
So I definitely wanted to bring that to this platform, and coming from your voice as well. I wanted that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so many, I'm people who've never been out protesting are now protesting. I remember like I have you know, we say like a play cousin, right? Like someone you grew up with. I know it's a young mom, young single mom. I've known her whole life. Um, she's, very conscious, but just not within that activist world.
Right.
She's works in the community, so she's active in her own way.
Mhm.
And she's like, I saw her. She's getting ready on her gram. She's getting ready to go out with her friends and mobilize and be present. And like reactionary again. It's like mom is sick. It's like, wait a minute, do you know what you're doing? So I
Oh,
had to like hit her up, like call. Like I remember just DMing her, like call me right now before your mother kills me.
right.
Because to have a certain level of experience and not be able to share that experience with people who are mobilizing for the first time,
Right.
it felt dangerous, and it
Mhm.
feels dangerous.
Mhm.
So immediately, I called her. I'm like, this is how you need to dress. This is what you need to wear. This is, make sure you follow these safety protocols. If you see the police start barricading, if you see them moving towards you, if you see this is happening, if they start antagonizing you, have a united front, like what to shout, what not to shout.
Right.
These are things that help,
Mhm.
and that's exactly why it's like seeing so many people out there is such a beautiful thing. But then
Mhm.
it also like makes your heart nervous as a mother,
Right.
knowing how they're being treated. So you're sending out this community into the world to
Mhm.
fight for their community.
Right.
But as a mother, you have that worry,
Correct.
as a sister, as a cousin, as a friend, you have
Mhm.
that worry.
Mhm.
So yes, you're present when you can be present, but when you're not present, you're home
Mhm.
and you're, you know, doing whatever you can. And that's why I'm sort of speaking on behalf of our group,
Mhm.
is because it is a group of mothers, and not everyone is as public, and not everyone, um, has everyone has their own situations,
Right.
and we help each other out in as many things as we can.
Mhm.
So this is just one of the things that's happening right now.
Mhm.
So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really happy we were able to create this fund, and I want to make sure it goes to people who need it. We want to make sure it goes to people who need it the
Absolutely.
most. I mean, everyone needs it, right? Everyone is
Right.
out there. Everyone is doing their best, but there are those who may not know how to, like you said, who may not know how to ask. There are
Right.
those who could be going through a struggle that is unseen,
Right. Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
and it may be confidential. So that's why I
Correct.
said it's an email form. It's not it's a private thing
Right.
too.
Which is what I really liked about your group, because there are people out there who are going out there, who are voicing, but for whatever X, Y, and Z reason would have to keep themselves confidential. I am a single mother, and I do not go out to protest, because at the end of the day, while I do have and I'm very transparent about this, while I do have a very great relationship with my son's father, there will always be a custody factor there, and there will
Yes.
always be legal factors to that. And it wasn't until just this weekend that I had the conversation with his father. His father is going to take him for more than a month to stay with him in his state where he lives. And he actually already saw it in my face, and he said, if you do go out there, just make sure you're safe. And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was transparent with him, and I said, the reason why I don't is because I don't ever want you to, if something happens, for you to look at it as, you're going to have to take him from me. He was like, no. He's like, that's not what this is about. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. So, but there's always going to be that concern for me, because my custody it is always going to be of a legal factor with his father.
Right.
And so,
Any co-parenting decision, anybody who has a co-parent in
right.
any kind of measure,
Correct.
it's an absolute factor. These are,
Yes.
as mothers, we don't speak about this enough, about how activists or people who are in any kind of movement,
Mm-hmm.
how that is used against you as a
Yes,
mother.
it
I
is.
mean, I have my own personal experiences with custody, that being brought up in custody court. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
the main reasons I sort of leaned back and just try to do things from a different angle, let's say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because, it was brought up in court.
Yeah.
It was used against me.
Right.
I have other friends and who've also had that experience, who've had
Right.
to some didn't turn out so positive.
Right.
We don't talk
It's a
about that.
shame.
We don't talk
No.
about how that it impacts how present a woman can
Can
be
be.
in her own fight,
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
because you have to count every single thing that might be a factor
Mm-hmm.
in you fighting. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we all have to, we have the same. We all have to keep face
Mm-hmm.
in different arenas, in our children's school, in our workplaces, and our families, with our co-parents. We have to keep a certain amount of sort of proof that we're good mothers.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. It sucks to even have that even questioned,
Right.
that you can be an activist and can be a mother.
Right. Right.
That's it's a really sucky thing, and
Yes.
it's a painful thing. I
Yes.
mean, I to speak on my own personal experience, I had that brought up against me very early on. Doing the whole custody and visitation negotiations or whatever. It was brought up, and I then had to ask permission to take my child to a simple thing as a pride event,
Wow.
and that impacts
Wow.
my life greatly.
Right.
Um, and I had to, again, fight for it. I had to go back, and I had to go back to the negotiating table
Mm-hmm.
and prove how important, attending such movements are to my family and to bringing up my child.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and finally, through a very good lawyer, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to even have access to that again,
Wow.
because Pride was considered a political event
Mm-hmm.
in the court arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's seriously a big party at this point, right?
Yes.
um
Yes,
at
it
least in
is.
New York City, exactly. And it's there's a lot of it that's family oriented.
It's so beautiful. I went
Right.
last year.
It's the most beautiful. My son, he loves it. He loves it so
Mm-hmm.
much. Yeah, that was the thing that actually had to happen.
Right.
And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it enough, how being present in things that are important to the struggle
Mm-hmm.
can be used against you as a mother.
Yeah.
And that's another way that we try to hold solidarity for each other.
Yes.
Again, after Occupy Wall Street, which was where we kind of all sort of came together.
Right.
It's after that movement. I was pregnant during Occupy, so that that was my experience. And I almost lost my child because we were barricaded in,
Yeah.
and the police wouldn't even let me come out to take a rest. So that
Wow.
was my personal experience. I went straight from one protest to the ER,
Wow.
and that was a real sort of eye opener for me about how present I could be
Right.
as a mother. That was my first sort of awakening.
Right.
So what do? Raising a socially conscious child in this world is a revolutionary movement in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Raising a feminist male identifying child in this world is a revolutionary act. Raising a child to understand and support community in this world is a revolutionary act. Raising a child who knows his rights, knows his accountability to the society,
There we go.
is a revolutionary act in this world. So that is the push that we have now, right? I have this sort of saying with my child. We go over our mantras for self-esteem and for building this warrior that I'm raising.
That's right.
You know, it's a huge thing. We go over this mantra and it's like, you are your people's warrior. And you can either heal or you can hurt. You know, so that's something that we work through as parents. Of course, trying to protect them, trying to do things age appropriately, depending how small they are. But we don't get to, like, as people of color, we don't get to not talk about race.
Right.
As women, we don't get to not talk about toxic masculinity. We don't get to, as queer, as people who identify, right?
Right.
We don't get to not talk about that.
Right.
Right? We have to, like, be open with our children, show them the world in a way that is hopeful, but at the same time very real.
Exactly.
Because they have to survive in it.
Exactly.
And not only do you want them to survive in it, but you want them to thrive in it.
Right.
You know, and you can't do that alone. It takes a village.
Absolutely.
It takes more than a village. It takes a city. It takes a city as strong as New York.
Yes, it does.
It takes a city to make that happen. It really does. So I am beyond blessed to have this group of mothers, to have my sister and my community and my friends and their children. And that's sort of, you know, my kid is with me in everything that I do, even when he's not physically present.
Absolutely.
You know, and so the most recent protest I went, I remember holding up a sign. I was with sort of she's like family, little sister of mine and a friend. And I could have not been a mother that day because I didn't have my child. I'm with sort of my crew, right? And we're there, and we're Indigenous women, but I am always a mother. Right. So of course my sign had to say Mamis Unite. Of course, I had read this somewhere, and then I sort of, you know, quoted it on my sign as well, as we're walking with 10,000 ancestors that came before us.
That's right.
You know, and that I'm hoping that sign gave strength to the people who were walking behind me reading it, who were seeing it, who are wondering if they're sort of alone in this, you know, in their own moment. It's like, you're never alone.
Absolutely. And that's what I think I took from even our initial conversation when we spoke. And I think that's exactly why I went ahead to me personally, feeling like I know what contributions I'm doing, but I felt like I needed to do more. And that's where I actually took the initiative to have that conversation with his father, because I did tell him, like, I would like to do this. I would like to go and be present. I feel like it's everything that I'm doing is great, but I feel like there could be more. And so the conversation did start immediately as just be careful and be safe. I know I have to talk to people who have already done it. I have to ask, you know, how do you do this? Because I do know from a healthcare perspective, we do know there are people coming in through the ER. We know this.
Yes.
So we do have to be careful. There's certain steps. I know that, but I just wanted that transparency with him, because at the end of the day, that is a factor that many moms do experience. Yet we do want to be supportive to each other and be present. And that's where really this entire purpose comes from, at least for me. And this is what it's become for me. And that's where I am beyond grateful that I've been able to connect with you. And have that conversation with you. It you know, you just never know where you can meet someone, and certain things like this could really resonate and really impact you. And again, if I haven't said it enough, what you guys have is absolutely amazing. Amazing, the resource in itself and the support in itself for people of your community and for each other.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's exactly how I feel, but also you have it too. You know, we all
Mhm.
have it.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like we all have our mom group, whether that's a PTA
Mhm.
or las doñas on the block, you
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
or a group of sisters or cousins or la comadre.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we all have that, and it really just means having that dialogue
Yes.
with your group.
Yeah.
You know, like again, we're not an organization. We're not trying to be an organization.
Mhm.
We have just been people who've been there for each other during hard times and
Mhm.
fun times, and arguments, and there's a lot of like open debate as well.
Mhm.
um as we all have different opinions about different things, like
Mhm.
not for like every mom group has that vaccine argument, every
Right.
mom group has that charter school versus public school argument.
Mhm.
Everyone's coming from where they can in life, but
Right.
we all have that accessibility. Like
Mhm.
these women I happen to know from real life,
Yeah.
and we opened it to other mothers as well.
Right.
I walked into this, it wasn't, I didn't sign up, I was one mommy, no other mommies, no other mommies, no other mommies.
And so,
And that's really how the ball rolled.
yeah.
And we all have that. But I had, like, again, these women I knew in real life. One of the closest people to me within a group, it's like, I remember being pregnant and I couldn't stop throwing up, and her bringing me these, she still does it. She still sends me these beautiful teas that she makes, right? She still does it to help me with like, what are you feeling? Let me send you a tea.
Yeah.
We have that within our community, and sort of holding each other, saying that out loud, like I have you and you have me.
Mhm.
Let's have each other, and let's also have this third person, this
Mm.
third parent, and this fourth parent, and this fifth parent.
Mhm.
And you guys don't need to talk all the time, and it's not like this sort of commitment.
Mhm.
It's just knowing that there is a backup there,
Mhm.
knowing that if your kid is going through something, you can put it out there in the world and someone will give you comfort and advice. It's a beautiful thing that we can all have. And I wish we did all have. And if
Right.
for those who don't have it, ask a friend, ask a community member, because I'm sure there's someone somewhere,
Mhm.
and it takes having that open heart. I mean, like you said, it's building community is something, unfortunately, that our schools do not teach our children.
Right.
So it really is up to us.
It is. And we do having to have the needed conversations. And so this is definitely going to be one of those dose conversations, dose recordings, just like the one with Big Sis was, because
Okay.
I don't think we are touching enough on everything that it takes to really go out there and support an entire movement. So I want to truly thank you from the bottom of my soul for
Thank
coming
you. I mean,
on
what you're
here.
doing is so important. I literally, like I said, have a platform and you're using it. You have a voice and you're using it. You're getting other people's voices out there. That alone is such an amazing thing. Like,
Mhm.
how can we are all in our own little world,
Yeah.
and you're opening that world and you're connecting worlds
Yes.
at a
Yeah.
time when that in itself is so crucial.
Right. Right.
So that's a beautiful thing. that's
Yes.
that's more than can be done.
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely. And it's exactly what I feel about you guys. So all again, I only met Paola, but I don't need to meet them all to know this is exactly how I feel about them. There is a movement. There's a movement that every single day we are in this present moment taking charge with, we're fighting for. At the end of the day, your background, your reason, your purpose is a full force that comes to the front line. The bottom line is Black Lives Matter, period. End of
yes,
story. And
yes.
that's what this is about. And I wanted to shine that light on so much of a purpose that you guys have. And someday, maybe I will encounter Paola on a front line marching somewhere.
Yeah.
But thank you to your group for the inspiration and for this information that you're sharing with my platform. Again, I don't know how far my listeners outreach. I have an idea, but it is my hope that if anybody who is listening has been out there, or for whatever reason, or for whatever ties, have been faced with a struggle or some form of an issue or some form of a fear, even in this situation with this movement that we're protesting for. I will have the contact information in the show description for you guys to reach out. I'm sure Paola and her group have their own process in place, which of course I would expect that to be the case
Yeah, we're
when
trying
it
to keep
absolutely,
it.
absolutely, when it comes to this type of support, because as you heard her, it takes a village and sometimes an entire city and maybe even more to get to what they were able to get to help. And so, please reach out to them if you absolutely need the help, or if you know somebody who does need the help, especially during these times that we are all trying to, in our own ways and in our own right, protest for the cause of this movement. Are there any last words, Paola?
Yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to just be clear. Yes, reach out to us, but know that there is no agenda. Because we have sometimes
Thank
people
you.
don't reach out because they're like, well, what do you expect from me? We
Right.
expect nothing. We expect you to be present with your family, receive this, whatever help we can give, with an open heart to keep on in the struggle.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're trying to keep it confidential. That's why we're trying to keep it high key, low key,
Mm.
right? So
Hmm.
high key enough that we can help, low key enough that it's not a big deal.
Absolutely.
Because we're not, again, we're literally just trying to like where to put this, where to put help,
Hmm.
that we can't all be in the streets, we can't all be protesting. There is no agenda, there is no expectation. We'll want to know who you are, simply just so we know who you are, and know that it's going to a safe and needed place. That's it.
Thank you so much for that disclaimer. I call it a disclaimer because it's always like that
Disclaimer,
fine
yeah.
print. Like, just remember,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
usually the fine small prints, there's something tricky in there. There isn't anything tricky here. It's so
There's
genuine. It's
yeah.
so heartfelt, and it's real. It's real support and real help. Again, Paula, I want to thank you so much for coming on this platform
Thank you.
to
Thank
help
you.
me put this out there, for taking time to speak with me, and again, for all that your purpose is. You guys have tuned in to an episode of A Dose. As always, since this is new, I don't know what I'm going to title it, but I'm going to really mastermind this because it is meaningful. There is a purpose, and it's
Mamis
deeper.
Unite. Yeah.
And we may just literally Mommies Unite, because we are moms. So there you go. That might just be it. Again, this has been another episode, and or you guys hear me next week, or again this week. We'll see. Bye.